Internet! It's Mark from the band SixFoot here again, playing some bass, and also wanting to do another video, make some more content, get some stuff out there, get our name out there. We're working hard on trying to get our album done, hopefully by the end of the year. We're hoping, cross our fingers, that we have enough songs, or whether we're just going to release an EP. We're not entirely sure yet. And so we tried to do a podcast on Thursday night, and that didn't go so well. So what I wanted to talk to you about today, and what I've tried to do a couple of times already, is to talk about sort of watts, ohms, speakers, power, decibels, all that kind of stuff related to playing music. A lot of my information came from this book and some various seminars and things that I attended and whatnot. But this book is kind of the primary. This is a lot of the really good information. This is Yamaha's Sound Reinforcement Handbook. This is the old second edition. I'm not even sure what the published date on it is now. But really the one thing about this, it's copyright 1989. So one thing about this though is that information like this, it doesn't change because it's largely mathematics. People are often asking, how big an amplifier do I need? And that question gets answered fairly often as in, well, you know, you don't need an amp as big as you think you do, because let's say you have a 50 watt amplifier. Well, in order to get twice as loud according to our ears, you need to have an amplifier that's 10 times the wattage. So a 50 watt amplifier, you get twice as loud, you need a 500 watt amplifier. And that is, in most cases, it's kind of technically true. 10 times power basically converts to 10 dB SPL, sound pressure level, to our ears. So every 10 dB of sound pressure level that our ears hears conceives that as twice as loud. That's the most basic way of putting that. Now, it's not always true, like I said, because our ears do not hear at a linear level. They don't hear every sound exactly the same loudness. Our ears are actually most sensitive at the 3 kilohertz, 3000 hertz, and the 4 kilohertz, 4000 hertz range. That's our most sensitive range. And that's on the average. That's averagely speaking. Everybody's ears are different. The other way that the volume and wattage concept doesn't really fit is when especially when you're relating a guitar player, an electric guitar player, and an electric bass player, for instance. You could give both of those guys a 50 watt amp, and the guitar player is going to seem excessively louder than the bass player if you put both of those amps on the same settings. And then, let's say we turn the guitar player up to 7 on the master volume, and then we'll crank the bass player all the way up to 10. That bass player is still not going to be able to sit in the same range as a guitar player, because the bass frequencies, our ears just need more of those bass frequencies. They need way more volume on those bass frequencies to hear them properly than you will with the mid-range, with the low mid and high mid frequencies of a guitar. It's the same thing. You take the exact same amplifier, take a 5 watt tube amplifier, and the guitar will seem very loud, and you can go jam with a 5 watt tube amplifier with a guitar. You put a bass through a 5 watt tube amplifier, you can barely hear it in the room, hardly. You just need more power to extend those long bass waves. You need more power to output those through a pair of speakers. It takes more energy to move those speakers that much, because that's what's happening. Those speakers, they literally have to move. They have to push all that air and fight against their magnet. That's why you'll kind of typically see that a 25 to 50 watt amp is quite acceptable for most guitar players. But bass amplifiers, you kind of got to get into that 150 watt to 250 watt range before you have anything that can compete with the other members in a band. And like I said, that's because you just need that much more energy, that much more power to push those big long bass waves, you know, enough distance that people hear them at the same level as everything else. So, as I said, like the 10 times power thing does not always correlate. You have to think of frequency. I did an experiment the other day just to see what would happen. I have a 2x10 bass cabinet, and then I have two 2x10 speakers. Do I get any volume increase when I hook them all up together? I hooked up one, I hooked up two, and I hooked them all up together, and the volume increase was negligible. We're talking like 1-2 dB tops. There's a theoretical maximum volume increase that you can get out of that. 3 dB is, you're kind of lucky to get it, and you have a theoretical possibility of 6 dB if you really max out all the volume. And so that's still not the twice as loud range we're talking about, and that's on access with the speaker. Like, you have to be sitting right in the sweet zone of it. You step to one side or the other, and you completely lose that volume, that possible volume increase. And when I thought about it too, it's like, well, this makes sense because there's only so much energy in the system that can possibly be utilized. I mean, there's only so much energy in this bass that can only be increased so much by the preamp that you put into it. And that signal can be increased only by so much through the amplifier that comes out of it. And that signal can only be converted to so much acoustic energy by the speakers that are connected to it. And the more speakers you connect, there's less power from the amplifier going to each individual driver. The more power you have, then the more energy you have to spread around. And that's why you need to increase your power sort of tenfold to kind of get an overall across the spectrum increase in volume. So the other area where we can see this difference, where you need more power for bass than for other frequencies in the spectrum, is when you look at biamped and triamped systems. Now, biamped is basically where you take a crossover and you split those low frequencies away from the rest of the signal and you chain them down to subwoofers. And then the rest of your signal goes off into full range speakers, basically, more or less. A triamp system is where you split off the highs and the lows. You send the highs off to tweeters, horns, whatever, and you send the lows down to subwoofers. And all that mid-range, then you have a pile of mid-range cabinets that cover a large portion of the frequency range. And the subwoofers, depending where you kind of turn, you can always tune the crossover to where you want it to split off your signals, exactly where they sound good and where those speakers like to play best. So you'll especially see the power difference in a triamp system because the high frequencies actually need very little power overall. So that's a very simplified explanation of kind of how power throughout a sound system and among musical instruments kind of works. I hope this information was of some benefit to you in some way or other. I kept seeing a lot of videos around the internet expressing that, but I always thought they didn't really point out the whole frequency issue. And yeah, not that any of the information I've seen was wrong per se, and not that I'm absolutely right by any means. I just know that there's more to it than just that simple 10 times power equals twice as loud thing, because it's not, across the frequency range, it's not 100% accurate. You don't always need, well, we don't need to go over everything again. I'd sit here and ramble forever if I had the opportunity. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope you'll check us out. Check out our website, SixFootBand.com, and look at all our links from there. You can listen to our stuff on our website, on Reverb Nation, or on SoundCloud. We've got our high-quality demos out there, and just crossing our fingers that we're going to have our album or EP, whatever it turns out to be, put out hopefully by the end of the year, and get out and do some gigs as well. So thanks for watching, and have a good one.